Well, I certainly hope the sound is coming through on this. Okay, from yesterday, two types of digestion we discussed are what and what. Okay, so where does each occur? Mechanical and chemical. Okay, so there's got to be a reason that mechanical digestion begins, and that would be what in your estimation? We use the corn dogs, which I thought were the mini corn dogs, but they were the big ones, which maybe does or doesn't make a difference. But why is that important that mechanical digestion takes place in your mouth? Okay, it has to deal with surface area, not so much because of what's inside your, well, with saliva it does, or would. Come on, there we go. Okay, and just like where it comes with that of multicellular organisms as opposed to unicellular, what's the advantage to having small cells as opposed to, for instance, a large cell? Well, we can do that with what's called the surface area to volume ratio, okay? So even if you're looking down the side of that corn dog or what have you, okay, do enzymes like pepsin, like we're going to get into later down the road, does an enzyme like pepsin have a very good chance of breaking this down very efficiently? That's why we said don't swallow this whole, because one, you could choke on that corn dog, and two, you just can't absorb this very well. So can that pepsin digest or begin breaking that down very efficiently? Of course, the answer is no. So when you start to chew that, okay, we can just take the same concept here. Obviously, there's going to be more chewing to it than that, but just in your estimation, okay, look at how much more surface area this has than what this one would. And then when you start breaking this down into smaller bits, of course they're not going to be circles, but in this case, you put all these inside of there, it's the same amount, but the surface area is much, much larger. So now this pepsin can then begin to break this down much, much more efficiently. The more it starts to break down, the better you can absorb that material. Now, if you see me keep looking down here, I'm just checking to see, make sure my battery is still working, because otherwise the sound isn't going to make it through to the microphone. All right. So, like you said, it's the mechanical and chemical breakdown of food, and then, and I think this is where we left off with yesterday, correct? Okay, and we verbally said, what is an accessory organ to the alimentary canal? Two main ones that we mentioned. Say that again. Liver was one. And we said it sits right about where your stomach is at, just a little bit below. Pancreas. It's your pancreas. Those are two vital organs that are accessories in that of the digestive system. Kind of like don't have to wear a snazzy tie. I choose to because it makes such a great accessory. I'm good at accessorizing. I don't know. It's just my opinion. I just think it kind of goes with the job. I mean, it doesn't make you a better teacher. Maybe it makes you more professional. I don't, because this is a profession that we choose. And you people don't know it yet, but I can see one or two of you becoming a teacher. I see a lot of, no. Dealing with some of your classmates maybe, or someone who was younger, little, who can we pick on in here? Miss Smith, I gotta go to the bathroom. I gotta go. Get out of here then. And don't come. Nah. Yeah, we want you to come back. Okay. So, as we move forward then, what was it that we said? If you have substances that get up into your nose, does that bother you? Not only is it just kind of inconvenient, but it's probably going to burn because this is such sensitive tissue, especially when it's in your nose. Mucosa is a very vague term. You find it in your nose, and you find it also, as you can see, in your small intestine. So one of the things I want you to think about, think of that alimentary canal. It's just, I don't know if we said it yesterday or not, but think of it starts in the esophagus and goes all the way past the large intestine. And I don't know for sure, but I would be led to believe that those are possibly two of your vocab terms. That's aspect that's different at this level. Your vocabulary is done already, but keep in mind there is a lot. There is this many in this chapter, 45. Okay, those are on 3 separate evaluations, but we'll let you know when they arise. It won't be one of those things to where you walk into class and say, yep, vocab quiz 1, knock it out. See, that's when you say, yay. Yay? No? No. Okay. No. All right. Okay. One of the things just to make sense of this is, because I think it's one thing to look at these, but when we talk about that, the esophagus all the way through the stomach, small intestine, large intestine, it's really just a tube. That's why it's called the canal. Just a opening like this that goes all the way through, just like this opening that what we see here. But what did it tell you about the lumen in the small intestine? What does it have? Yeah, like this, okay? So what that does is when you have all of these, okay, just like you're taking different bites to break this up into smaller pieces, what you have here, these finger-like projections that would go all the way around. Okay, so we could do that all the way around. And inside of here, you would have capillaries. Okay. If we remember anything about biology, which of course we do, we remember biology. I hated that class because it was, I'm not going to lie, it was probably boring too. What were your 4 types of movements across a cell membrane? Well, so you look at, I don't know. You know, you just don't know, and if I tell you, you're going to hit yourself upside the head and say, I knew that. just start throwing out some random terms. Movement across the cell membrane. You know, one of these things, for people who are watching this video, they're going to start laughing because my classmates are so dumb. No, you're not dumb. Yeah. 4 movements across the cell membrane. Just guess. The simplest starts with the letter D. It's moving from a high concentration to a low concentration. It doesn't require any energy. Diffusion. Okay? What's another type of movement that doesn't require energy? There's 2 more. Remember, there's 4. We did 1. There's facilitated diffusion. Then there's one that starts with the letter O, osmosis. Then the one that does require energy is active transport. But the reason you have those capillaries in those lumen is, why do you think you don't have an artery? Why would there be a capillary? If you know anything about capillaries, they're very, very thin. They're 1 cell layer thick, is what capillaries are. So why is it important to have all of those capillaries in your small intestine, in those finger-like projections called lumen? It allows you to absorb what? Nutrients. Okay? It could be bigger substances like proteins and vitamins, which facilitated diffusion would have to take place with that. But it allows you to take some of the smaller nutrients, whether even with gases. Oddly enough, your small intestine deals with the pH values in your blood as well. It has a lot to do with chemistry, and it revolves around the carbonate ion. Okay? Because if blood gases can diffuse across that 1 cell membrane, which it does, that carbonate ion can be reduced from CO3, remember carbonate, down to CO2. And CO2 is a what? What do we consider? What type of matter? A gas. And that gas can diffuse very easily into that capillary, then it makes its way to the lungs, and then can be exhaled. So just because we think that gas exchange takes place in the lungs only, that's not the case. Many of these different organ systems help one another to try to maintain an internal stable environment. Okay. Am I losing some of the bars in here? Yeah, I am. Hopefully this can make it a couple more class periods. Now you need to keep an eye on how long we're talking here too. Okay. And I think, and we tried to talk about this yesterday. This is one of those aspects to where, yes, we take probably a lot more notes than biology, but we spend a lot more time verbally talking about these as opposed to biology, because this just isn't quite so cut and dry like it is with biology. There's a lot of moving parts that take place with all these different types of organ systems working together. Even in this case, okay, with any type of organ, you're always going to have nerve tracts in there. And one of the reasons for this would be as follows, okay? What did we say yesterday? What is your liver going to do as opposed to what I'm carrying around and what you might have in this canister? Because I know you don't drink that, but do you? What did we say yesterday? Pop. See, was that just a lucky guess? Oh, okay. You gonna work at 34 stop? Okay. Because your sister did. Okay. But here, if you're working in that type of environment, you see all of that pop around you. Oh my gosh, that looks just so good. I just want to go over there and grab my Dr. Pepper, Diet Dr. someone else, Diet Mountain Dew, Pepsi, regular or diet? Okay. Yeah, cherry. Yep. Are you going to succumb to peer pressure? Says, hey, have a drink of my Pepsi. It's good. Well, it hasn't been trained for that. You got to go into some of this training then. Okay, well, fair enough. Okay. So what might another substance be? Like I talked about coffee in my case, your Pepsi. There's something in that the human body, it responds to, but in excess amount it doesn't like. It's the caffeine. Okay? Now, we turn the clocks ahead. We'll say 6 or 7 years, because I think we talked about this in the zoology class, but so 6 and 7 years, that puts you of age to where you can legally go to an establishment and purchase alcohol, okay? Now, unfortunately, what can happen with underage people, okay? Thankfully, we've got these nerve tracts inside our small intestine, because one of the things that can cause someone to throw up is something that we smell, but if there's a certain amount of alcohol that gets inside your body, we call that alcohol poisoning. So sometimes a person may absorb too much, but in this case, if the body can sense that, it's going to send a signal to the brain, and I hope there's a pail, or you're outside, or you're close to a sink, because what's going to happen? Just like science class, blah! Chemistry, blah! Anatomy and physiology, blah! Oh, hopefully we're having fun in here. But yes, what that does is if a person throws up, then obviously they can't absorb that alcohol then. So that's kind of like a fail-safe system that luckily our bodies actually have, okay? So like in every other organ, yes, you're going to have nerve tracts, but there's a reason for that in there. Plus, it also has to be stimulated. Can you regulate the movement of food through your intestines? You got a 50-50 chance. No, you cannot. So, there's 3 types of muscle in the human body. Do we know what they are? What type? Smooth muscle. Your heart is cardiac muscle. And then this is what type? Moving your arm. Like me doing my weightlifting. Pumping them weights. Skeletal muscle, or voluntary, okay? Because you voluntarily control them and it's moving your skeleton, those mean the same thing. Smooth muscle, like what you would see in the surrounding your small intestine, you cannot control that with your brain. It just does it automatically. And that's why you really can't, you have to have verbal cues, I think, to actually cause you to throw up, or someone puts something in the back of your throat, that's your gag reflex, and it's probably happened to you. Well, I don't know. When you're at the doctor's office and they say open up and say ah, does that ever come close? Or no? Okay, because some people are going to be more sensitive to that than others. Okay. Let's see here. I want to do this one. And then I want to get down to this. So we're getting close to being done for today. Because it's not that it's hot in here, but it is obviously getting warmer then. Actually, I take that back. I think we're going to stop here because I want to talk about these contractions within your small intestine. Yeah, this will work here. Okay, we got this just actually off the tip of a pen, okay? So it's circular in nature. So with this, the movement of particles through your small intestine, we can see there's two types. You got circular and longitudinal. So what happens is this is a type of circular movement, okay? Just think if you have all these rings that are contracting around here, yeah, it's going to propel the food forward or particles in your small intestine, but not very efficiently. So what's going to help it then is longitudinal muscles that would look like this. So not only do you have this action, but you also have that as well. And there's two reasons for that. It makes it more efficient moving down your small intestine, but the way I also like to look at it, it's also going to create this churning motion, okay? Just because, remember, you have all those finger-like projections inside your small intestine. So as it's moving forward, it's going to churn through there, kind of like a cement truck drum. And when it does that, that also helps you absorb them much more readily. So you got circular movements like this and longitudinal muscles like that. It just propels that forward going through your digestive tract. Now, you might think, okay, what about your esophagus? How does food get from the back of your glottis or epiglottis? Remember which one's which? Which one sits up on top? The epiglottis is on top, the glottis is on bottom. So when that flap covers your trachea, okay, so you don't get anything in there, that's when these types of muscles, they're only circular. One reason, what's the difference between how far the intestine has to travel as opposed to the esophagus? Yesterday we said this is maybe, 13 inches? Not very far. But inside your intestines, it's going probably pretty close to 28 feet, somewhere around there. So it has a lot further to travel. So that's why you have circular muscles probably, or should I say perhaps in your trachea. Well, I hope not. Circular muscles in your esophagus, and then the other two types in your intestines. Yes?
Okay, so at my job, I work in the healthcare setting, so I have to do this trachea suctioning. Is that like getting the food out of this trachea then? Or is it getting out of the
I think it's just wedged back below the epiglottis. It has to come out of there because then there's certainly going to be no air getting down into their trachea.
So take this tube and push it all the way down.
Oh, so you're not talking about something getting stuck.
No.
That's what I thought you were.
We're doing like suctioning. We have this machine
Okay.
that we use on medication.
Do they have cystic fibrosis? Is that
Sure.
producing mucus in there?
Yeah, it's a lot.
Okay. So now going back to your original question, what?
Did a tracheal section, right?
Yes.
Yeah, does that go all the way down his trach then?
No. No, it's eventually your trachea is gonna split at the bronchial tree where it's gonna go into each lung. And one of the things, let's say, I just like picking on you. Your older sister forces you to take a penny and it goes down your trachea. The doctor is gonna maybe look left or right lung. You wouldn't know for sure, but because of the placement of where the heart is, the right lung is actually where it splits in your bronchial tree is more so vertical. So it's probably going to go into your right lung as opposed to your, well, not the lung, but your bronchial tree. It's just because of the way the anatomy sets up. But yeah, only going to go down in there so far until it splits. All right. So that's all I got for today. We will pick up with this tomorrow.